What's up, guys? My name is GB. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to Slain by Force, a video series where we get to know this machine that is the Force. If you're new to music production, you're not sure where to begin, this might be a perfect place. With all of the equipment on the market, whether that be the Force, or Native Instruments Machine, or AKAI's MPC, or Teenage Engineering's OPZ, or even the new OPXY, people often don't even know where to begin. What is the best instrument to use to make music, right? I stumbled on that for a long time. I spent a lot of money and countless hours and thousands of dollars trying to figure out that exact question. Well, I believe that the Force is the best music production device on the market, hands down. Whether that be Native Instruments Machine or AKAI's MPC, I think the Force is something like the wheel. I think it revolutionized the industry, if you will. You know, before the wheel, we was all rolling on squares, right? Well, if you will, the Force, I believe, is as revolutionary as the wheel. And I think it's so revolutionary that it changed, at least from my perspective, this music production industry. And I wouldn't be surprised if other manufacturers aren't paying AKAI to not make another Force, because it can do anything and everything that I know I could possibly want. So this workout series is an attempt for me to go through this machine that is the Force, A to Z, and share with you what I know and hopefully get beyond this production plateau. My goal is to share with you what I know and hopefully get me to share with you what you know and win one of these OPZs. So that's what it is. Welcome to Slain by Force. Let's get it. These workouts are going to be moderator led. I'm just your coach and your host, here to share with you what I know about this machine that is the Force. And again, get you to share with me what you may know, because there's a lot of information out there. Let's get it.
All right, everybody. So the first thing we want to do is actually go in and do a little bit of housekeeping. What I mean by that is I want to do a little bit of an overview on the software and the hardware of Machine first, so we get some of the concepts down. We know some of the areas that we're talking about here, and some of the terminology that we're going to be using going forward.
Okay, so we're going to do an overview of the software and the hardware. Get used to some of the terminology going forward, so we know what we're talking about.
Here. So first thing we're going to look at is hardware. This is the real treat to using Machine. This is an actual instrument. This feels like an instrument, so much so that people often ask me, the first time they see Machine, they'll say, so the sounds are built in here? And you have to explain, no, the sound is coming from the computer. This is hooked up to the computer.
Okay, now right here is where I want to begin the discussion about the difference between the Native Instruments Machine and the AKAI Force. I love Native Instruments and I love the machine. And I'm a big machine fan. I'm a big Native Instruments fan. And if you're anything like me, you were probably just dying when they did not create a Machine Studio Plus, if you will. I mean, I think we were all excited for a new hardware controller when they updated the software to the Machine 3.0. Now, I got to say that I've been slain by Force. Since the AKAI 2.3 update for the Force has completely killed my desire to use my machine, hence slain by Force. So, now we have a machine, again comparing it to the Native Instruments machine, that has the software and the hardware combined, where I have all of my sounds inside of it, not sounds tied to the computer.
Like I mentioned before, almost everything you do is going to be done from the hardware controller, and that is what makes Machine so great. But it's really that integration, that tight integration between the hardware and the software that make Machine stand out. And in fact, I mean, we have an instrument, this hardware controller, that was built for the software, not vice versa. This is why it works so well.
And that's what made the machine, Native Instruments machine, work so well, is that the controller was built for the software. And again, I love Native Instruments and I love Machine, but now having a machine that is the force, and it have software and hardware be one, and it's kind of hard to go back.
And this is what people love about it. You have your volume, tempo, swing. These are all hardwired into the machine, so you never have to think about it. If it's too loud, turn it down. Very easy. You have all your parameters obviously laid out on 8 very easy to use knobs. You have your transport section down here. So loop, I'm not sure. Again, I have a really old machine unit. You can see mine says F1 and F2. Yours probably says snap and auto write. This is like an old, again, I've been using this since before Machine even came out, and that's a good testament. This thing still works like day one.
Now that is a huge testament to the Native Instruments machine, right? At this point, I've been using my Force for, I bet, about 7-8 years. I believe our moderator's been using his machine for, hell, probably about 10-12 years at the point where he was sharing this content with us. And that is a huge testament to the Native Instruments machine and Native Instruments. Up until just now, with Native Instruments Machine's 3.0 update, did they discontinue their older hardware. So up until just now, Native Instruments maintained the hardware-software ecosystem. And I think that speaks volumes to Native Instruments in that they would try hard to maintain those two things. But as I said at the beginning of this video, I think we're all a little disappointed that they did not update the hardware with their new software.
So this is a very durable piece of hardware. So when we look at the hardware, let's actually kind of break down the main parts. Most importantly, probably are your pads and your groups. So the group is like your track, right? The group has 16 sounds inside of it, and a sound can be anything. A sound can be a sample, it can be a virtual instrument, it can be a loop, it can be an effect, it can be a bus, it can be a recording platform, whatever you want really. And we'll get more into that as we go. But just know that each group has your 16 sounds. If we start at the top though, this is your control area. This is where you're going to function through moving around the various parts of Machine. Whether we are in the arrange view, and we can obviously see our entire song, and we...
Okay, let's start right there. We can't even see our arranger unless we open a project. So here we are. This is our GUI as you open up the project, or as you open up the Force, and this is what it looks like. But you can't even see an arranger, right? So in order to see anything, let's open an empty project. Boom. Now you still can't see the arranger. So, we're just going to go through it to keep up with the moderator. Push the clip button, create an empty clip, go to the arranger. Boom. Here we go.
We can scroll through it with the jog wheel if we like. Whether we're in mix view, and we can actually see a dedicated mixer section for all of our sounds. Browsing through the sampler with the wonderful, beautiful looking sampler now. You can see there's thumbnails on the Machine Studio. Or going into the sampling mode and seeing different options for everything right here.
See that if we go over here to the sampler. We're going to go
distinction there. Next we have our performance area. So for instance, you can tap your tempo out here.
Tap it down here.
You can hold down tap and actually adjust your tempo from where we're at 127 all the way up down wherever you want to go.
Where you want to go?
Step mode to actually enter step sequencing, which we'll talk about. macro controls that will actually allow you to map nearly any parameter into a unified macro control for easy use. This is really helpful for live use, or just, anything you want to control right away. It's one button push away. You don't have to be going through multiple menus that way. Note repeat, this allows you to repeat a note at a specific time value.
We don't have a note repeat, we have an ARC button. And if you hold the ARC button, push shift and the ARC button, it will change to either ARP or note repeat. I haven't determined or been able to determine honestly what the difference is. They both sound like they're doing the same thing to me. But you can also push either this latch notes and this enable button, and I believe if we do that, then when we push it, it will automatically latch and unlatch instead of having to hold it, and that's cool. So you might want to latch it.
Down here is your transport controls. Transport is always your play, record, stop, start, erase. Simple functions for undoing things. You saw before I added a couple patterns. I wanted to undo them. You can instantly just undo.
Shift and undo is redo.
Or redo as much as you like. Copy and paste functions, moving notes around, nudging things on your sequencer timeline, clearing things out altogether, and quantizing. All dedicated knobs, which is very easy. On the Machine Mark II or the Micro, it's a shift function, and then there will be extra options on the pads that will do all these same things.
And so obviously our shift function does other things as well. You can see some of the things, well, most of the things highlighted in white, and if you push shift, you will enable those things that are in white.
It's very, very simple to use. And then lastly, the jog wheel on the Studio is really helpful for moving around your sequence or your arrangement, maybe mixing something. So you can see I'm turning down the volume on this.
We're just going to use our knobs.
Maybe browsing through different categories, and you can actually move through different types back and forth and be able to get through here. Very simple. And you can also do extra functions for the jog wheel: tuning, swing, volume, etc. So again, a very hands-on instrument. This is something you really want to be doing most of your work from the controller.
From right here.
Down.
That's what makes it so cool. We're going to do all of our work from this machine that is the Force.
Here, these are very important buttons, and they'll be used tremendously. Mute. You can see when I mute things, I can mute out certain sections, certain sounds, certain pads, and it's very helpful to see what you're actually muting out. And you can also mute out entire groups altogether. And the same thing goes with solo. You can specifically solo just one thing or one group. Select allows you to actually select multiple pads. Select them all, select none.
We're in a clip. We would maybe select
Duplicate,
it.
you can actually copy and paste very quickly. We'll show you how to do this. Navigate is very helpful. Say if I'm on the sampler settings and I want to go through the different pages on my control area, you can see here in the software, as we scroll through, you can just jump to a specific area rather than jumping through with the pads here.
Now we also have a navigate button. And so I've kind of found that the best way to use the navigate button is to go further down the grid. Like here, if we go into our clip mode, if we go into launch mode, here we have our eight pads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so we can have 8 clips here. And let's say, as he's showing us copy and paste, let's just say let's go to the matrix. And let's say we go down here, and let's say we copy this. And we'll put it down here to number 11. Oh, now it's in slot 10, excuse me. So now we have a clip in slot 10 and a clip in slot 1. I have found the best way to use the navigate feature is to use it to jump down to those clips, so now that I can get to it on my drum pad when I can't see them otherwise. Make sense?
And you can also zoom in and out on your arranger or on your patterns. Very helpful. Pad mode, this allows you to have some extra functionality on the pads. If you hit shift pad mode, You can turn this into a keyboard. Very helpful. Lastly is pattern and scene. You're going to be using these a lot. Basically, a pattern, you can see right here I have 7 drum patterns I've created so far. If you want to go to new patterns, you can just simply select them like that, and it'll create new patterns within your group.
And so here's another distinction between the machine and the force. The force has groups, as he indicated earlier in the video, and we have tracks. And as he said, a group can hold his 16 sounds. Well, we have tracks, and we have 8 tracks at the bottom. And each track can have different patterns going down. A combination of patterns then create a scene. So you can have a different pattern, again, if we go to our matrix, on this clip up here, and a different pattern on this clip down here. Another distinction between the force and the machine is that as we have tracks, you don't have a drum group here initially. So the force starts out default with a plug-in track and an audio track. In order to get a drum track, you have to push the plus button and add the drum track.
If I want to undo what I just did, I can simply undo. Same thing with scenes. I can jump to different scenes throughout the song. Anytime I'm focused on something, I have immediate control over it, and I don't want to not stress that. This is so key that no matter what I touch, everything is almost a button push away. This is very helpful. Over to the right here on the studio, we have the level section. This is very helpful. You can control the master, group, sound, and cue levels immediately with this knob. So for instance, if I just need to turn down the volume on this sound, I could do that without affecting anything else. If I want to affect the entire group with this whole drum kit, I can turn that down. If I want to adjust the master volume, I can do that as well. One thing to note is that with our master volume, we want to keep this at 0 pretty much, or slightly below. Sometimes I'll set it to like -2 just to give myself a little more headroom. But we don't want to adjust the master volume when things get loud, things get out of control. We want to do this from the group and the sound level first. Preferably from the sound level, then the group level. And lastly, we leave our master alone because that's the final output to the monitors. And we don't really want to be touching that. We want to fix the gain stage before we get to that point. From there, in the middle section here is obviously the most important part. These are your pads. This is what makes machines so famous, really, I guess. These are highly, highly sensitive pads. I'm barely touching these. So they're very dynamic, very velocity sensitive, meaning when I hit it very soft, you're barely going to hear it. When I hit it loud, you're going to hear it. This is really helps you be more expressive with your playing and really allows this to be a nice dynamic instrument. I'd say probably 95% of everything can be done from the controller without ever touching that mouse. I like to make music with my hands. I check my email all day with my mouse. I don't need to be like making music, dinking around with a mouse all day, which is what I love about the studio and machine in general.
And that's what I love about the force in general, is that no longer am I tethered to a computer, and no longer do I have to just try to step sequence things and wait for my computer to crash or have to do an update before I can start to make music. The force is what it is and it has been what it has been. A lot of people complain about a lack of updates, but my goal here is to use this machine to its fullest in its current condition. Yeah, I'm like the rest of them. I hope they make another force. But again, I think the force can already do anything and everything that I want it to do. And I think that all of my favorite songs were made with a lot less than what the force is capable of doing. So, if you're interested in joining me on this production journey, possibly win the OPZ, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button below. We'll keep it moving from A to Z. My name is GB. This is Slain by Force. See you in the next one.
Your mission, Jim, should you decide to accept it.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
Now,
Your mission, should you choose to accept it. Hit the like and subscribe button. Follow me for future content and the production journey with this force. Take this OPZ home with you, you know what I mean?
As always, should you or any member of your team be caught or killed, the Secretary will disavow any knowledge of your actions.